Lokati here. So we are looking at how to find upgrades for your character. And I've been playing around with Stormweaver a bit, so we'll look specifically at Stormweavers and Wands. Now, Wands have a lot of useful stats on them. Extra damage as is a stat, mana is a stat, increased cast speed is a stat, lightning spell skills is a stat. This one is a little bit harder to judge because we don't have easy math on the tree. But here's what we can do. So the first thing we do is we look at 20% increased spell damage. So int increases our mana, which increases our damage. We need to find just a generic spell damage stat. So first we'll do a generic lightning damage stat. So generic lightning damage is going to be the exact same as generic spell damage because all of our, well, that's not true because we have extra as. Where is a generic spell damage stat? Oh, right down here below. All right, so generic spell damage. So the first thing we're going to do is look at this. So Notepad, we'll open Notepad up and we'll go with spell damage. And we're at 7681. That's going to be our baseline all of the time. So 7681 minus 71983. And this is divided by 10. So spell damage increases our DPS by 130.2. Now we can look at generic elemental damage as well. That's 71,723. So 7681 minus 71,723. And then that is 8% increase. So we divide that by 8. So again, 130.2. So spell damage and elemental damage are the same for us because all of our spell damage is elemental damage. Surprise, surprise. Now lightning is going to be different. So we get 7681 minus 71,896. And so that becomes, and that's divided by 10 because of 10% lightning damage. So lightning damage is worth 121.5 DPS. Now we can come over here to cast speed with lightning spells, which is the same as any generic cast speed because we're casting with lightning spells. And so Spark is 7681 again. And that will be minus 71,342. And that'll be divided by 3. And so cast speed is worth 220 DPS. So cast speed, 220 DPS. Now we'll go to an int node. And so we'll use this int node up here. We got 7681 minus 7927 divided by 8. So we have 30. So int is worth 30 DPS. 30.7 if you wanted to be more accurate. And then we'll look at extra as damage. And so here's an extra as. Extra as cold and extra as fire is probably the same thing. So 71,023. So extra as is 68.4 damage. What else do we need to look at? So lightning spell skills is not available on the tree for us to compare with. And so there's no way for us to get an exact number on spell skills. I will say that undeniably spell skills is higher than anything else that is available in the game. But I do not believe that there's only a cold spell skills. There is not a lightning spell skills on the tree anywhere, and there's not an all spell skills on the tree anywhere either. We could literally just get a amulet that had only one spell skills and equip it and then like back into some sort of an average. But the problem is we would be losing the already benefit of the +3 all spell skills. So we'll just say that spell skills is just going to be better. Mana is another way that we can increase our damage. And so we need a flat mana node. And there is I thought a flat mana node somewhere here. There we go. Well, this has percent mana on it too. I think this is the only flat mana node. We can look at a percent mana. Well, we can just use int. So int is 2 mana. So mana equals 15.35 DPS. If 30 int, or if 1 int is 30 DPS, 1 mana is 15.35 DPS. So we got that there. And other stuff like penetration, exposure effect, magnitude, all that kind of stuff doesn't compute out in here, but you can always compute them yourself. And so, for example, 1% increased shock effect is 0.2 shock. Base shock effect is 20%. And so 10% increased shock effect or magnitude of shock, 10% increased magnitude of shock is 2% increased shock. We double that as Stormweaver, so that's 4% increased shock. We do 7681 times 0.04, and we get a DPS increase of 2,827. Now we need to figure out the percentage of our damage relative to shock or relative to lightning, and you can see almost 100% of our damage is lightning damage. So just for the sake of argument, we'll call this 0.9, and then we use 10% shock magnitude, so we'll divide that by 10, and so that's 254 DPS. So shock magnitude 254.45 DPS about. Lightning pin would be a similar kind of math, 7,681 times 0.01. So lightning penetration is 706%. But again, this is capped at 75% pin. So you can't go over 75% pin. What other valuable stats might we want to know? I think it's probably all of them for right now. Mana regeneration has no impact, obviously, on our damage, but that is a good utility stat. Now, for the sake of ease of math, we can divide all these numbers by 2, or by 100. So we get 1.31 here, 1.31 here, 1.21 here, 2.2 there, 0.3 there, 0.68 there, 0.15 there, 2.54 there, and 7 there. Now, when we're looking at our wand, we can just go and put all of these into our wand. Flashbang. So we're looking at our wands. And we'll get our handy dandy notepad. I'm going to move this over to the side just for me. And so spell damage is one attribute that can exist on wands. And that has a weight of 1.302. And then we have elemental damage. I don't think increased elemental damage is a stat that exists on wands, but we'll put it in here. It doesn't matter. Lightning damage is a stat that can be on wands. And so we go with 1.215 there. And then we do cast speed is a stat that can be on wands. That's worth 2.2. We go int is a stat that can be on wands. That's worth 0.307. And then we go maximum mana is a stat that can be on wands. That's 0.1535. 0.307035. Math is hard. 0.1535 is correct. We can't get shock magnitude or lightning lightning penetration on our wand. Those are not available stats. But we do know we want lightning spell skills, and then so we can set this to 5 if you wanted the most. And then if you wanted mana regeneration, this is where you would put mana regeneration on there. It depends on where the mana usage on your build is. So we can take this and we'll sort by sum. We'll set an upper bound or a lower bound of like 350 here. And obviously these are all mirror tier ones. So the market knows what is valuable in wands and what isn't. We can sacrifice one level of lightning spell skills to potentially lower the value of these wands, and of course, there's nothing in a budget under a div. We can set this to 300 instead. Get down into some 80 div wands. We can set this to 250 instead, and we can get down to some 910 div wands. So you can adjust this as needed. Now, like these are going to have reduced attribute requirements, which is not a valuable stat because mana regeneration is the only. We have an open suffix on a wand where there is nothing else useful to our damage. Adding mana regeneration only increases the budget. It doesn't decrease the damage. And so you can roll through this and calculate this as much as you want to. The exact weightings are going to be based on your build. These are the weightings for my build. But you'll need to do the math to figure out the weightings on your build so that you can get the best wand that you have, that you want. Now, for me, I am a mana-based build. I don't run any ES, so maximum mana is not only DPS, but maximum mana is my survivability as well. So I wouldn't want a wand with less than 135 mana. And of course, that pushes my budget back up, which means I need to reduce the value of the wand to my DPS so that I can get a wand that is going to be both giving me the mana regen I need, giving me the max mana I need, and giving me the damage that I need. Now, I also prefer wands with cast speed because I don't like the quality of life of low cast speed. So then I would come in here and do a cast speed wand, and then there isn't a 200 some wand at all that fits that. But this one at the top for 30 div for 249 is a crazy good deal. But then I would have to go down even further to get something in a reasonable budget, depending on my build, just to get something that works out well. And so keep playing with the weightings. The more you understand on how this damage works and how everything interacts with your character, the better you will be at finding really good deals. Because a wand like this could be a massive upgrade for me for only 4 divine. The wand was listed 8 minutes ago and is generally just a great wand. So we'll grab this and just kind of see what this does to our character. One for 5 div is also a solid choice, but I really like this 23% cast speed more. Are we going to get a purchase or are we going to get ignored? This wand is also good. I like the extra as cold because it does chill things. So that's nice to have. 24, but this is 9 div, and that's more than I want to spend on a wand upgrade right now if I'm looking at wands. This one has lower cast speed, so that's not ideal. Give this guy a little invitees. See if maybe he's not paying attention to his whispers. Trading is such a nightmare. See if he takes our offer. One thing to note while we're looking at doing this trade that can't get a trade for, you can come in and also search with no listed price. And these will show wands that fit your search criteria that do not have a price listed. There were 2 of them. And so we can make offers on both of these. This one is crazy good. So we'll whisper this guy. We'll offer him 8 div. See if he takes it. 216 some wand. This would be amazing for us. This one is also good. We'll whisper this guy. It's not nearly as good, so we'll whisper him 4 div. What he says. Don't really want a lower mana wand, but we're just kind of testing the waters out here. Welcome to PoE Trade, the waiting game. Alright, Mana Stack Blast. We'll do your 5 div just for the content so that we can see this wand is an upgrade for us. Now, what we should have done is run the sum totals for the current existing wand we have, and we can just plug in that math and see if the current wand we have is comparable to this wand. But I already know that this wand is going to be an upgrade for us because I already did the math in my head for it. And so we go back to our hideout, and we revel in our new wand here. We are currently at a Spark Tooltip of 70,681 DPS, and that is a 4,000-ish DPS upgrade for us. So nice upgrade for us on this wand. This wand is not corrupted, so we could risk corrupting this if we wanted to try to get better rolls on it. But we'll probably go ahead and leave it as it is for right now. If you have any questions over anything, leave a comment down below or come by Twitch and ask. I'm happy to answer all of your questions. Thank y'all very much for watching. Peace.